Tanjiro really wanted to go help, but he spit blood and lay motionless, because the such wound on his eye contained Muzan's blood, like a potent toxin eating away at Tanjiro's cells. He wouldn't turn into a demon, but would die soon after. The bond of blood glowed brightly, waking Nezuko up with a start. She sensed her brother was in danger. She ran straight to the battlefield, much to the sound Hashira's confusion. Isn't that just serving her up to Muzan as a reward? How can we fight him then? Kiria told him not to stop her. Let Nezuko go, because Kaguya's spirit had appeared to him in a dream, telling the boy to run into the forest, and a figure appeared, showing him the right path. The swordsmith elder had lost track of her at the cliff. It seemed the demon-to-human transformation drug hadn't been effective. The three Hashira were still in intense combat with Muzan, but it was just a weak resistance. All three were injured by the black whips. How in the world is Muzan only targeting the love Hashira? Before it was too late, something knocked that whip away. The stone Hashira had arrived to balance the fight. Muzan was surprised and immediately received a blow that split his body in half from the wind Hashira. That he was fine and there was no splitting. The wind Hashira continued to throw oil at him, setting him on fire. Yet he had no problem. The water Hashira asked a nearby new recruit to quickly carry Tanjiro to safety. The boy listened and carried Tanjiro away as fast as possible. In his consciousness, Tanjiro was taken to a vision of ancient times, where he became a woodcutter and met Yorishi. Outside, the new recruit was desperately performing CPR on him. Tanjiro had stopped breathing, so the new recruit didn't know what to do next. Suddenly, another kid came up and suggested the recruit go save Yushiro. That seemed like a good idea, as Yushiro knew how to heal Tanjiro. In that dream, Tanjiro was forced to sit still and listen to Yorishi confide. When he was young, Yorishi's mother gave him these legendary earrings. They symbolized the sun god and were a protective charm for him. His older brother was upper rank one. He always cared for him. There were times when he was beaten by their father for protecting him. He even gave him a flute. Play it whenever you face hardship. Then he also left home right after their mother died. He wandered everywhere until he reached a village and met a girl named Yutie. Her family had been eaten by demons. From then on, the two children lived together. 10 years passed. The two children grew up and got married. Yutie was currently pregnant with Yorishi's child. To prepare for the child's birth, he went to find a midwife and promised to be back before sunset. But along the way, he met an old man and helped him get to where he needed to go. Because of that, he missed the appointment with the midwife. When he returned, the sun had set. What he saw was the scene of his wife torn apart, along with their child. He held his wife in grief for 10 days straight, until a demon slayer arrived. Yorishi buried his wife and child and promised to destroy all demons, making this world more beautiful. He taught demon slayers how to use breathing techniques. From then on, many techniques were invented: earth, water, thunder, stone breathing. The strength of the demon slayer core increased, and more demons were defeated. And one day, Yorishi also met Demon King Muzan. His strength and skill were equivalent to the current era. Yorishi used his special eyes to see through his heart. Muzan had 7 hearts and 5 brains. During the fight, Yorishi's sun breathing was perfected. His slashes cut Muzan's body into pieces. He tried to keep his head from falling off. He didn't understand why he couldn't regenerate. The girl who was with Muzan stood there, watching intently. She seemed to be hoping for a miracle. Unexpectedly, Muzan exploded into a pile of viscous flesh. He exploded into 1,800 small pieces, and Yorishi managed to cut 1,500 pieces in time. The girl cried because she couldn't see Muzan die. Yorishi came to comfort her and apologized for not ending his life. She also told him that Muzan said he would never appear until Yorishi died. And that girl was Tameo. After that, he also learned that his older brother had become a demon. Immediately after, he was expelled from the Demon Slayer Corps and lived a wandering life. On the front lines, an extremely intense combat was still ongoing. The Hashira couldn't get close to him at all. Suddenly, the love Hashira suffered a fatal blow to her left side. The serpent Hashira quickly carried her away from the battlefield, while the rest tried to hold him off. The serpent Hashira handed the love Hashira over to the new recruits for treatment. After that was done, he returned to the battlefield, ignoring the love Hashira screaming for him to stay. To him, the love Hashira was the only one who brought him a feeling of happiness like a family. He cherished every moment with her. If I could live as a normal human, I would tell you I love you. The serpent Hashira was born into a family that was all girls. Only one boy was born every 370 years. Because of that, he was locked up like an animal from birth. Everyone in the family treated him kindly, but with a very difficult to-hear tone. It wasn't until he was 12 years old that the serpent Hashira was released from prison. The whole family took him to a place filled with gold and jewels. It was ruled by a demon snake. It turned out the serpent Hashira's family sacrificed children in exchange for wealth and status from the snake. Because the serpent Hashira had 2 different colored eyes, the snake demon decided to keep him for a while longer. First, it ordered someone to cut his mouth to sample his blood. Sitting in the dark cell, the serpent Hashira cried out in pain and despair. Only the lost snake Kabiramaru was his friend. Suddenly, one day he had an opportunity to escape. The snake demon knew and chased him immediately. Before it could catch the serpent Hashira, the Hashira arrived in time to destroy the snake demon. The Hashira took him back to the village, but his family didn't accept him because he escaped prison. 50 people in his family were killed by the snake demon. But that wasn't the serpent Hashira's fault. It was all the demon's fault. The serpent Hashira had nowhere else to go. Because of that, he joined the Demon Slayer Corps to eliminate all demons, to reclaim countless lives for his family, as well as his freedom. The doctors were trying to stop the villagers from entering the center of the village. Someone rescued a cat in distress, and it ran very quickly to the battlefield. It was the serpent Hashira who had returned to unleash a combined attack with the other Hashira. But they couldn't turn the tide. The poison from their wounds was gradually seeping into their bodies. It was so fast that the water Hashira's hand lost feeling and dropped his sword. Fortunately, the serpent Hashira and stone Hashira still had enough strength to block the black whips, protecting the water Hashira. The battle continued, but all the Hashira had been poisoned. They wouldn't be able to hold out much longer. Unexpectedly, the cat from earlier charged into the middle of the battlefield. From its collar, it sprayed out many syringes. The cat had been killed by Muzan, but it bought enough time for the solution to inject into all the Hashira. Muzan's poison was suddenly neutralized. All the Hashira returned to their full strength. Although they didn't know who did it. Thank you for the antidote. Muzan was furious because it was Tameo's cat. Even after death, she still managed to thwart him. When humans reach the extreme limit between life and death, they will surpass their own limits. The serpent Hashira was doing something similar to what the mist Hashira did. He gripped his sword tightly, and unexpectedly, it turned red. He focused so intensely that he didn't pay attention to the black whip heading towards him. Luckily, the water Hashira noticed and controlled it. Unexpectedly, Muzan's hand was cut off. He looked around to see who did it, but none of the Hashira present had the same characteristics as the wound. Another arm was cut off. This time, he felt something lurking nearby. Although he couldn't see them, he could feel them moving. There are 3 of them. Show yourselves. The black whip hit the invisibility charms, revealing the 3 of them. They cried out in terror at being exposed. The 3 nervously picked up the fallen charm. Muzan was about to attack, but the serpent Hashira was very quick. He lightly took off 2 of his arms with his red sword. The other 3 found their invisibility charms again. The stone Hashira also charged in. He slammed his 2 weapons together. They sparked and turned red. The thrown Strek lightly took off one of Muzan's shoulders. The water Hashira and wind Hashira also joined in. Both rubbed their swords together, causing them to ignite and turn red. Yusho was rescued from the rubble. He was injecting the antidote into Tanjiro. Even while unconscious, Tanjiro still held his sword tightly. But the poison had seeped too deep. Only heaven can save him now. A new recruit yelled loudly. Wake up, bastard. Otherwise, Muzan will escape. Everyone's efforts and sacrifices will be for nothing. Hearing the call, Tanjiro opened his eyes. The Hashira, with their red weapons, continuously inflicted damage on Muzan. The wind Hashira tried picking up an invisibility charm to see what was so interesting. Actually made him invisible. The stone Hashira focused intensely again, looking into emptiness. He saw Muzan's entire body. He had 7 hearts and 5 brains. He was truly a monster. That's why cutting off his head had no effect. His brain and hearts kept moving around inside his body. Everyone had to attack those 12 points simultaneously to defeat him. The stone Hashira instructed everyone how to see those vital points. Focus your breathing. Pour energy into your senses. Following the instructions, the serpent Hashira also saw it. The battle became much easier. Not knowing what happened, the doctor hiding nearby only heard sounds of breaking, clanking, explosions, and then silence. He peeked out and only saw Muzan standing there. What about the Hashira? They were sent flying, each to a different place. Blood flowed everywhere. No one was moving. Tanao was extremely scared as Muzan approached. Suddenly, the dance of the fire god was called out. A clean slash cut off Muzan's arm. Tanjiro had arrived. He carried Kana and handed her to the doctor for care. Muzan, let's end this. In his recent dream, Tanjiro had witnessed the 12 forms of sun breathing firsthand. The beautiful dances were witnessed by Tanjiro's ancestor. After that, Yorishi gave his earrings to Tanjiro's ancestor as a souvenir. Then Yorishi continued his wandering journey. Tanjiro's ancestor promised him, "I will pass down the earrings as well as the dance of the fire god to future generations." That was the end of the dream Tanjiro witnessed. Now, he clearly remembered every movement of those 12 techniques. Now he just needed to practice it. He had to dance until sunrise. He also saw Muzan's true body, just like the stone Hashira did. The 12 vial points matched the 12 techniques in sun breathing. There was no time to think. Both immediately charged into combat. While dancing, Tanjiro realized why the Hashira failed. Muzan had grown 8 more tentacles from his thighs, greatly increasing the damage, hashing the Hashira off guard. Muzan was very versatile, so Tanjiro needed to be highly vigilant. Chain techniques were unleashed one after another, dancing erratically around Muzan. He realized that compared to Yorishi, Tanjiro was no match for him. No matter how wildly Tanjiro danced, he couldn't get close to Muzan. Firstly, this was his first time. Secondly, the pressure from the techniques felt like his body was burning. Fortunately, Muzan also couldn't maintain his peak performance anymore. He felt like he was slowing down and didn't understand why. He suspected Tamao had done it. So he traced the memories from her cells. The truth was revealed. The Demon 2 human transformation drug was mixed with many other potent toxins. If it wasn't effective, it would react with the potent toxins to produce an aging substance. If Tamao succeeded, Muzan's body would age 50 years every minute. Meaning, as of now, Muzan had aged 9,000 years. Actually, age means nothing to demons. This can be understood as him not eating human flesh for those 9,000 years. That's why currently, Tanjiro was still dancing very smoothly without interruption. The more he danced the 12 forms, the more accurate they became. The cat from earlier was still alive, because it was a demon. Yushiro continued with the new recruits to rescue the Hashira. Nasuke was lying motionless, still holding his sword. The stone Hashira had lost one leg and his body was severely injured. Tanjiro was in a difficult situation because he was dancing too much and losing oxygen. He could no longer see Muzan's vital points. Seizing the opportunity, Muzan unleashed his whips towards him. Fortunately, the serpent Hashira appeared and blocked the slashes. When Tanjiro became alert again, the serpent Hashira had lost his eyes. The serpent Hashira comforted Tanjiro. "It's okay, kid. I still have my snake to guide me." Muzan continued to chase, separating the two brothers, but he couldn't stop them. The two brothers continued to fight together. While fighting, Muzan suddenly noticed the old scars appearing. Those were the places where Yorish had slashed him. They hadn't disappeared after hundreds of years. They were still burning his cells like the sun. Tanjiro noticed the scars were like pointers, guiding him where to aim. Even if the hearts and brains moved, those scars followed. What Tanjiro needed to do now was find the eye charms, something that could help the serpent Hashira see. Letting the little snake guide him would have a delay, so his attacks wouldn't hit Muzan. Suddenly, Muzan ran straight out of the village, because there were only 4 minutes left until sunrise. Tanjiro immediately chased after him. He couldn't let him escape like that. Tanjiro picked up nearby swords and threw them like throwing knives at Muzan. He was very annoyed by this, but he couldn't turn back and fight. From above, the serpent Hashira jumped down, piercing his chest with his red sword. Tanjiro continued to charge forward with the dance of the fire god. He threw the eye charm to the serpent Hashira. The serpent Hashira regained his sight. Although it wasn't like normal eyes, he could still see the path and reduce the delay in his reactions. The two brothers continued their super smooth combos on Muzan. In the distance, Nezuko saw the town she needed to reach. One of her eyes had returned to being human. Memories flowed back. She remembered her family, remembered the day Muzan came and killed her parents, remembered her brothers playing together throughout their journey, remembered the Hashira, who had protected her until this day. Especially her older brother Tanjiro, who loved her wholeheartedly. She remembered everything. Her name is Nezuko Kamado. On the battlefield, the two sides were still fighting intensely. There were only 35 minutes left until sunrise. Muzan had no more time. He decided to split his body into multiple parts, shooting each part in a different direction. The two brothers were startled, not knowing how to stop him. Luckily, the splitting process stopped. Muzan realized he couldn't do it. The poison in his body wasn't just aging. There was another type of poison that prevented splitting. Once the 3 types of poison aging, splitting prevention, Demon 2 human transformation took effect, a new type of poison would be produced, eating away at his cells. It was all thanks to Temeo's sacrifice. After years alongside Muzan, she knew what his abilities were. Now, he would have to taste the pain for the things he had done to her and her family. Unexpectedly, he emitted a shockwave, blowing everything around away. Something created from his blood demon art affected everyone. Tanjiro struggled in pain. He couldn't breathe at all. His mind began to fall into a state of coma, watching Muzan's figure fade away. The 3 children in the garden were also affected by being connected through the crows. All 3 still managed to sit up, encouraging everyone not to give up. There are only 25 minutes left until sunrise. In this desperate situation, Inosuke appeared just in time. He was furious. Thus, by shielding him, the stone Hashira lost a leg. The water Hashira lost an arm. So, you will have to pay with your life right here. Inosuke charged into the black whips, but it seemed he wasn't skilled enough to take on Muzan. Fortunately, Zenitsu also arrived in time. The 2 friends began fighting together. Although they were thrown around everywhere, both were determined not to give up. Tanjiro tried his best to raise his sword high. If he was having trouble breathing, it was due to the blood demon art's effect. Maybe the Nichiren sword would solve the problem. Tanjiro used his sword to stab himself, hoping it would work. Muzan was frustrated because those 2 kids were really persistent. He whipped them senseless, yet they still stood up. He also felt that the other Hashira were dragging themselves towards him. The 2 young friends continued to charge forward, determined to hold Muzan back at all costs. Annoyed, he unleashed a second shockwave. This time, no one was injured, as Tanjiro rushed in just in time. He continued the 12 forms of the Dance of the Fair God. No matter how tired he was, he had to be determined to fight until his last breath. Meanwhile, Zenitsu and Inosuke continuously harassed Muzan, eroding his body to make it easier for Tanjiro to dance with his sword. The efforts of both were rewarded when Tanjiro closed in and pierced his stomach with the sword. That wasn't enough. He immediately used black whips to strike towards him. Unexpectedly, the Love Hashira appeared, shielding him from all the black whips. She used all her strength to tear off one of his arms. Immediately after, the Wind Hashira also appeared to cut off the other arm. Having nothing else he could do, Muzan transformed his body into a giant mouth, trying to swallow Tanjiro. Fortunately, the Serpent Hashira shielded the mouth with his body. Everyone was covered in blood, holding onto Muzan tightly. The sun was rising in the distance. Seeing that, Muzan was in utter panic. He used his last bit of strength to push everyone away. Because of that, Tanjiro lost an arm, but he still held onto his sword tightly. Something stronger was needed to inflict more damage on him. Sword, turn red, I beg you. Another hand gripped the sword tightly. The water Hashira had arrived, resonating with Tanjiro. The sword turned bright red, cutting into Muzan's flesh, making him spit blood. The rays of the morning sun hit his skin. Unable to bear this heat, he enlarged his body. That pressure sent the water Hashira flying and enveloped Tanjiro inside. The new master begged everyone, don't let him escape. Do something, just a little bit more. All the new recruits nearby used everything they could, throwing all sorts of things down, blocking Muzan's escape route. The doctors also joined in, even pushing carts into his head. That still wasn't enough. The whole group yelled at each other, pushing a whole wagon to block his path. From above, the Wind Hashira used wind breathing to erode his flesh. The Stone Hashira was right behind, pulling him back towards the sunlight. The intense tug-of-war pulled Muzan back. He continued to try it and burrow underground. Not allowing that to happen, the Water Hashira continued to swing his sword, tearing at his body. The Wind Hashira continued to erode his flesh from above. The Serpent Hashira followed from behind, continuously slashing without stopping. Everyone's efforts were rewarded. The sun had risen high, illuminating everything. Muzan gradually disintegrated under the morning sunlight. He was burned into ash down to his last cells. Everyone held their breath, washing the remaining traces. And then, sounds of cheering and crying of joy echoed everywhere. But everyone stopped immediately after, because there were still many injured people who needed help. Any victory comes with pain. The Stone Hashira had lost a lot of blood. He said, give the medicine to those who need it more. And then he took his last breath under the sunrise. The Serpent Hashira also held the Love Hashira tightly in his arms. Both were very weak. They probably wouldn't make it. He talked about the days they spent together. Those images were so joyful. Only now did the love Hashira dare to express her feelings. I love you. If there is a next life, promise that you'll come to me and make me the happiest bride in the world. And then they both passed away in warm embrace. The Win Hashira had his wounds bandaged and survived the critical moment. As for Inosuke, he was covered in blood but still had enough strength to bite the medical staff. Zenitsu was crying terribly as he was being bandaged. "Marry Nezuko to me quickly. I'm going to die." The War Hashira anxiously searched for Tanjiro, and then he saw him sitting there. His pulse was gone. His breathing had stopped. He went to him to apologize to his younger brother. "Forgive me." Suddenly, Tanjiro's eyes shot open. The eyes of a demon. Rewinding a few minutes. While dying, Muzan couldn't think of any way to escape. So he decided to sacrifice himself, transferring all his blood and power into Tanjiro's body. At that moment, he would inherit Muzan's will, becoming the next Demon King. Because he shared blood with Nezuko, this experiment would definitely succeed. The whole group was bewildered, not knowing what was happening. Suddenly, Tanjiro's arm regenerated, sweeping a blow that everyone quickly dodged. Now he had turned into a demon, but he still couldn't withstand the sunlight. The Water Hashira yelled loudly, "Everyone who can still move, grab your weapons and run here immediately." Only these two guys responded. Everyone else was passed out. The Water Hashira charged forward, blocking Tanjiro from hiding in the shadows. No matter what, the sun must burn him to ashes. Surprisingly, the erosion process stopped. Tanjiro had completely overcome sunlight. Immediately, the Water Hashira received a slap from him. Inosuke also arrived to stop his friend. Zenitsu couldn't believe his eyes. Why did things turn out like this? Inosuke had an opportunity to put his sword to Tanjiro's neck, but he couldn't go through with it. After all, the three of them had been best friends all this time. He stopped to let Tanjiro point his claws at him. Fortunately, little Nezuko arrived in time and hugged her brother. "Brother, wake up. Let's go home. I remember everything now." Tanjiro yelled loudly, not knowing why, while his hands continuously clawed at Nezuko. Zenitsu immediately rushed forward to stop him. "Stop, she's turned back into a human. Don't hurt her." Inosuke also charged and hit his head. Bonk bonk. Everyone was trying to wake Tanjiro up, but things didn't go as planned. Tanjiro erupted with power, sending everyone flying outside. His body quickly evolved into a form exactly like Muzan's. He began to swing his whips towards the people around him. The Water Hashira continued to use his sword to defend. In this form, Tanjiro could even shoot out Bijudama, tailed beast bombs. Little Nezuko used her hand to block it. The Water Hashira realized Tanjiro hadn't eaten Nezuko, even though she was covered in blood right in front of him. Perhaps he was strongly resisting inside his body. Muichiro wanted to go help, but he was a demon, so he couldn't move under the sunlight. Tanao, covered in injuries, walked over. In her hand, she held a tube of the Demon 2 human transformation drug. This was a backup dose that the insect Hashira gave her, just in case the dose Nezuko drank wasn't effective. She smiled, because she still had one eye left. Immediately, flower breathing, final form was activated. Her eye gained enhanced vision, helping her move and weave through the black whips. She managed to inject the drug into Tanjiro before losing consciousness from the black whip. The tube of medicine worked quickly, causing Tanjiro's soul to surge. He reached out towards the light. "Please, Kami-sama, let me go home and reunite with my sister." From below, people from his family tried to pull him out of the viscous pile. Muzan appeared, pulling him down. "You are not allowed to leave. Carry on my will. Become a powerful demon king." The arms of the sacrificed Hashira also appeared. Everyone united, pulling Tanjiro out of the dark swamp. From above, Nezuko's hand also tightly gripped her brother. Muzan tried his best to restrain them, and then, many other hands helped pull him out. And their efforts succeeded. Muzan could only wash and cry out in despair. Opening his eyes, Tanjiro saw everyone gathered around him, calling his name affectionately. Finally, Tanjiro was back. Muzan was truly dead. Everyone hugged each other in joy. Everything is over. Life is peaceful now. See, Temeo-san, we did it. A few days later, everything had calmed down. Muichiro came to say goodbye to Tanjiro. "Maybe we won't meet again after this. Try to live well, okay? As for you, don't die, Muichiro. Just keep living, because you are the only one who holds the memories of Temeo-san." The final Hashira meeting was held. Only the Wind Hashira and Water Hashira were still alive, but both were wholeheartedly loyal to the Ubuyashiki family. The three children bowed, thanking the Hashira for their immense contribution to humanity. Tanjiro, after recovering, also visited Kanao. Fortunately, she still retained one of her eyes. Additionally, she adopted the serpent Hashira's snake. Tanjiro and Nezuko accidentally met the wind Hashira passing by. His personality had changed after Jen's death. He was no longer aggressive, but very gentle. Then the whole group also gathered to visit the graves of those who had fallen, offering them beautiful bouquets of flowers. A few days later, everyone also returned to Tanjiro's small house. Everyone went to the backyard and knelt under the wisteria flowers to remember their family members. A peaceful life unfolded in this small house from then on. The children gathered together throughout those years. The story flashes forward to modern era. The legend of the Demon Slayer core only remained in the stories. The descendants of the Hashira were also born. In their free time, these children still read the heroic history of their ancestors, summarized in those storybooks. Only one person is still alive today. That is Yushiro. He has become a mysterious artist. His works only depict one girl, and they are highly praised in art exhibitions worldwide. The girl's name is Tameo. The story ends here. What do you guys think about this manga? Leave your thoughts in the comments section. And now, goodbye, bye-bye.